up to you. A statement, or we can get right to questions.
Let's get right to it.
All right. Question, raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Name and affiliation, as always. So we'll start here on the left.
Luke Teacock, Raleigh News and Observer. You are one win behind Coach Smith in NCAA tournament wins, and I know you probably don't think about that kind of stuff, but does that number mean anything to you?
Well, it does now. I didn't know it beforehand. Wow. You know, the other night after a game in the ACC tournament, they told me that we had passed or tied, Coach Allen, Dr. Allen, and I didn't realize that, and I didn't realize this about Coach Smith, but I really do appreciate those kind of long-standing records, but please remember what I said, that we were able to pass Doc Allen, and if we win, we have a chance to tie Coach Smith, because that's the way I look at it. If you find anybody that says Roy Williams said, oh, I've won such and such, that's a lie, because I've never said that. But I do really love the tradition and the history of college basketball, and so that's a pretty neat deal. I don't think I'm going to put any extra pressure on my team, though, because they look at it, it's like it's my record, and that's not what it is.
Other questions? We'll go here on the third row, please.
Roy, Brett Strelo, Fayetteville Observer. We've talked a lot about fouling too much, not shooting enough foul shots, and why that's happened. Does that stat kind of speak to the kind of the core of your philosophies of just pounding it inside, of like why it's an important stat? And does it remind you of anything else you've seen?
Well, it's been the most, if not the most important offensive stat in my entire 27 years as a head coach. I mean, you go back to the really, really, really good years in 2005. I mean, Sean May fouled out half of Illinois' team. You go to 2009, Tyler Hansbrough fouled out half the United States, and we were pretty doggone good. So it's always been something I truly, truly believed in. The difference is this year is we're just making so many little silly fouls, and that just drives me crazy. You reach in and touch a guy on his little pinky, and as he lays it up, and so it's a three-point play. I mean, we had who was it? It was a guy, I guess it was Duke. I mean, we gave them 3 old-time three-point plays called just by barely reaching in. That probably drives me more crazy than anything, but we need to be more aggressive attacking the basket with our post players and our drives to the basket both. But I really have. You can go back and listen to any press conference from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I've always thought that you want to get to the free throw line more than your opponent. It's always the reason I believed in getting the ball inside. In 2005, at the end of the game, Illinois' center was sitting out. He was not in the game. He had already had 5 fouls, and so my philosophy is the more you get fouled, the greater chance you have of their better players not being in the game at the end.
On the aisle in the middle, we'll get back to you next, and then.
Hey, Coach, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette newspaper. You guys had a lot of turnovers last night. Arkansas likes to turn people over. How concerning is that stat, and just what's your take on Arkansas and their style and pressure?
Well, there's no question if we turn it over at the same rate we did last night, we won't have anybody left at the end of the game, including the head coach, okay, because we're going to fight somebody, and I usually means our players. I mean, if we turned it over 17 times last night in a, gosh, I think I saw it 60-something possession game, it's going to be more than 60 possessions tomorrow. So we understand that. That's 50% of our practice discussion out there on the court was not turning the basketball over. I don't mind some turnovers. Coach Wooden used to say he didn't mind turnovers at all, which I do. I'm not going that far because Coach Wooden thought that meant you were trying to accomplish something. But, some of ours are like our fouls. They're just silly turnovers. So we've got to stay away from the silly turnovers. We've got to make sure that if they're pressing that we want to attack, because if they're going to get a turnover, then we got to get some layups out the other end also. But I've been one of my greatest friends in coaching for a long time was Nolan Richardson. I've known Michael forever. I used to go to Arkansas and play in their coaches' college coaches golf tournament. I love the way they play. We've got to turn our motor up higher than it's been all year long. We've got to turn up our intensity higher than it's been all year long. We've got to turn up our toughness. Because you're going to be double teamed, you're going to be triple teamed. You can't start crying for mama, come help you. You got to be able to play.
Back right, and then we'll go here on the front row.
Greg Barnes in South Carolina. Coach, some of your players were talking about how you brought up the 82-52-50 game against James Madison last night. They're talking about some of the anecdotes that you just kind of constantly pull out. Just curious, is that a personality trait in terms of storytelling? Is that something you picked up as a coaching tactic years ago?
I'm sure it's a personality trait because I talk too much. But also, I want guys to understand things are okay. I mean, I didn't like the look on our guys' faces last night when they sat down in front of me at that timeout, like they were about to panic, like, oh my gosh. And, you know, I explained to them that this is NCAA tournament play. In 1982, we had a guy named Worthy and a guy named Perkins and a guy named Jordan, and we absolutely blew out James Madison 52-50, you know, to get them to realize that, you know, what was happening is I didn't expect Harvard to quit. I expected us to play better. I didn't expect us to give up a 4-point play. I didn't expect us to miss 2 1-and-1s and all that kind of stuff. But so I think it is a personality trait. But last night specifically, and a lot of times I do it, is just to tell them things are okay. You can go back and watch it, not that you should, but in 2005, I called a timeout right 3 minutes left in the game. And they came over and I said, I don't have anything to say to you. I just wanted you to rest for a second. And God, isn't this fun? We're getting ready to win a national championship. You know, so it depends on what's going on. But yeah, I talk too much too.
Front row here on the left.
Gene Fournette from the Times-Union. Coach, there was a story by North Carolina alumnus S.L. Price in this week's Sports Illustrated questioning whether Carolina had lost its way in trying to balance the academics and athletics with regard to the scandal that's been going on. How do you as a coach, what is your message to either recruits or to Carolina supporters or just casual observers who see stuff like this and may infer that Carolina has lost its way in that regard?
Well, you know, we've been going through this, I call it stuff. I used to say junk, and people didn't necessarily like that, so I'll stick with the stuff. We've been going through this for three years. It seems like a lifetime. Carolina has not lost its way. There are things in college athletics that people may think don't fit together. I happen to think they do fit together. I think that you can have a great academic institution and have a great athletic program. That doesn't mean that it's impossible to make mistakes. I said our university, we had some mistakes. I'm very proud of my degree. My son and daughter went there. I'm very proud of the degree they have. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old grandson, and I hope like crazy they go to school there, and I'll be extremely proud of their degree. Some people's attitudes or ideas are out in Never Never Land that think everything in the world is perfect. I don't happen to think everything in the world is perfect, but you can make really, really positive things if you really want to. I walked by a building over here, and there was a building I wondered, I said, did they run out of money or something? You know, what happened? And they had a mistake. Concrete didn't work. Part of it fell in, so now it's all up in trials and everything. That doesn't mean that building things are gone to crap. You just have things that are mistakes that you can't do over. It's not like golf. I love to play golf. I don't take mulligans, okay? But you can't do that. But no, I disagree. I don't think Carolina's lost its way. Carolina had some mistakes. We've made so many changes. It is unbelievable on our campus. Right now, if I decide that I want to go to the Chart House tonight for dinner, I got to get the approval of 12 committees and all the disciples of the Lord before I can go. And that's okay. But no, I disagree. I don't think Carolina's lost its way. I think our degree, our educational institution is one of the most fantastic places in the world. Oh, not just that article. I mean, for 3 years we've been putting up with some of the negative recruiting by other schools. We've been putting up with some things that aren't very pleasant, but, you know, we're still playing.
Back right, and then we'll go down here in front.
John McCann with the Herald Sun newspaper. Coach, you said you wanted your bigs to get away from those turnaround jumpers and fadeaways, but isn't a lot of that part of Bryce's game, that little soft jumper?
Well, go back and think who I've said that the most about. Kennedy. Have you seen many of Kennedy's turnaround fall-away jumpers go in? I hadn't either, so that's one thing I'm really bad. You know, I don't like those things. Bryce is a turnaround jump shooter. I want him to get closer position, to get in tighter, to make more of them. But, Kennedy last night, he takes one of those, and why would you do that? It just doesn't make sense. He's guarded by a guy that looks like me, and he's shooting fall-away turnaround jump shots. Thank goodness for Tommy's club, there was nobody on Harvard's roster that looked like me. But, no, that's the whole thing is we want Bryce to get lower because I'll tell you what, Bryce makes more dunks than he does turnarounds, okay? And so the closer he gets, the better he is. But Kennedy is the one that shoots to be honest with you, get Joel on the right block, he turns to his left shoulder and shoots that shot. I don't say much to him because a lot of times that sucker goes in.
Front row and then the third row.
Coach Don Coble with the Times Union here in Jacksonville. I'm sure that you like to believe or hope that you have everybody's attention at a high level at all times, but it's human nature. Do you think with last night's game, did you sense that you really had their attention today in practice, that maybe there's maybe their eyes are open just a little wider and their ears are open a little wider?
I don't know that I've ever got my club's full attention. You got to know them. They're a bunch of goofballs. But we had the attention to detail in practice today was pretty doggone good. And regardless of what you say and how much you try to praise Harvard's club, they think it's Harvard. And that's bad. You should respect everyone, fear no one. That's what I tell them all the time. But they also saw how aggressive those clips were on TV about Arkansas and, know that a little bit. So we did have their attention today pretty doggone good.
So as a quick follow-up, so as badly as you felt last night, do you feel really good now about going into tomorrow night?
No, because I've seen Arkansas play. They're scary. They really are. And some of the clubs this year, we played Louisville in the last 10 minutes of regulation and in the overtime. Their frenetic pace and their aggressiveness really hurt us. And so we got to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I did think, to your question, that we had a pretty doggone good attention span this morning during practice.
Third row, and then we'll get across the aisle.
Brett Friedlander, Wilmington Star News. Roy, with the exception of Jackson and Stillman, nobody in that room has been to the second week of this tournament. How important is it for those kids, for Marcus and Bryce in that group, to experience that? And from a program standpoint, there was once a time where UNC and the Sweet 16 were mutually exclusive, and now to get them back, what would that mean?
Well, 2 or 3 answers to that. One, the other day I said, Marcus, have you ever been to the third round? JP, have you ever been to the third round? Bryce, Joel? And the answer was no. So they know it because I told them about it. But it's not just our exclusive right. I was just going through the stuff that we get. I think this may have been from the ACC. There was a 5-year period where Coach Smith's team got out of the first round once in 5 years. I mean, it was 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, something like that. So it's not our exclusive right. Now, I didn't tell that to the kids. But you ought to feel pretty doggone good to get in the tournament, to win a game in the tournament, win another game you feel a little better, win another game feel a little better. But that's not a rallying cry. It's not like Bobby Frazier walking in Detroit in the semifinals in 2009 say, okay, we know how we felt last year after we laid an egg. It hadn't been any of that kind of thing.
On the aisle on the right. Yes, sir.
The last time Arkansas was in this tournament, they got eliminated rather decisively by North Carolina in 08, national championship year for you guys. Razorback fans remember that. What do you remember about it?
I can even go back farther than that because one of my greatest feelings I ever had is when 91, the first time we went to a Final Four. We had to beat Arkansas to go there. And again, that was when Nolan was the coach, who was a great, great friend. But, my guys weren't even born in 91, so I don't talk a lot about those. They don't know who Mark Randall and Terry Brown and Alonzo Jameson and Adonis Jordan, Mike Matt. That was my starting lineup. They don't even know who those guys were. Last night I brought up Jordan. Most guys still know who he is. But in 08, we played really, really well. That was the weirdest thing. I go out in the Final Four in San Antonio. I've been trying to forget that Final Four in 2008. And as I'm walking out on the court, I said, well, we prepared exactly like we did last week. I feel just as confident as I did last week. And last week we were great. And I think we beat Arkansas and Louisville to get to the Final Four that year. And wasn't a few minutes later, we were down, Steve we were down either 28 or 38. So I've got rid of those nostalgic feelings because I'm serious. I walked out on the court and I was trying to question myself, and I said, we are prepared just as well as we did last weekend. We are just as ready. We're going to be great. And Kansas had us, it was either 28 or 38 or 88, something like that in the first half. So I've forgotten about all those years.
Got a few minutes left. We'll go in the back and then in the middle.
Roy, Mike Neighbors, Cox Sports TV. You prepared for a lot of great players this year. What are your impressions of Bobby Portis?
I've seen Bobby a lot. I saw Bobby a lot in high school, whether it's in the Peach Jam or some of the national AAU type competition. Arkansas has one of the best, quote, AAU teams that really is an AAU team. Everybody uses that to describe all of summer basketball, but the Arkansas Wings is one of the best organizations you have in the AAU. So I've watched Arkansas players ever since I recruited a guy named Richard Scott from there 100 years ago. So I've seen Bobby play a lot. He's a big-time player, and he's a very versatile big guy. I mean, he doesn't mind catching the ball out 15 feet from the basket and driving you to the bucket. He doesn't mind catching it out there and making a pass to a guy cutting inside. He can get it in close to the rim, and as John and I were talking about, he can really score against you inside. He can defend his position. He's one of the better players that we'll play all year long. If I'm not mistaken, I think I heard last night on the broadcast that he was SEC Player of the Year and only the second one. I guess he and Corliss, and I had an opportunity to coach Corliss with some international basketball, but Bobby's a big-time player.
Let's get two more. We'll go one right here.
Coach, you mentioned on Mike Anderson. Arkansas was in a bad way when he got there. He's rebuilt it. What have you thought about the job Mike's done? And this is really his third big rebuilding job.
Michael's best characteristic is his wife, and she's really helped him out a heck of a lot. We have some fun together on some trips. I tried to teach her how to shoot craps one night, and she won money, so she thinks I'm a pretty good guy. But again, Michael was with Nolan forever. I think he coaches like Nolan with the foundation and the beliefs, but he coaches like Mike Anderson coaches. You know, I coach like Coach Smith with the foundation and belief, but I believe I'm different, and I think Michael is different. I think he's done a great job at every step he's been. I hope that I get a chance to come back and play in their golf tournament they do for charity in the spring, and he's just one of the good guys in the coaching profession that I've really enjoyed, and he's gone to some places and really done a great job rebuilding them.
Time for one more.
But you can tell him I said the best thing about him was his wife.
Sorry to interrupt you, Coach. Time for one
No,
more.
you
Everybody good?
Everybody,
Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.